Assalamu alaikum everyone. In hepatology today we are going to talk about a very interesting topic, that is jaundice. It is a symptom, it is not a disease. Jaundice indicates when Jaundice indicates that the patient has the pathology in the liver or in the hepatobiliary tract. So jaundice is the yellow discoloration of skin and the mucous membrane because of hyperbilirubinemia, and if the patient has yellow sclera then it is called icterus. Jaundice is detectable only when the bilirubin levels are greater than 40 micromoles per liter or greater than 2.5 mg per deciliter. The normal value of the bilirubin is up to 1 mg per deciliter. Now we will talk about the little bit pathophysiology or the metabolism of the bilirubin. When there is a hemolysis in the body or normal breakdown of RBCs, then hemoglobin breaks down into globin chains and heme. Then this heme then further break down into porphyrin and iron, and this porphyrin then converts into biliverdin, which is basically a green pigment, and then biliverdin converts into bilirubin. This bilirubin when binds with the albumin, this bilirubin then binds with the albumin in the blood. This is called unconjugated bilirubin, and this unconjugated or indirect bilirubin when passes through the liver, then a special enzyme acts on it, which is called UDP glucouranosyl transferase UGT1A1, and then it is converted into bilirubin which is conjugated. This is called direct bilirubin or conjugated bilirubin, because bilirubin then binds with glucouronic acid. This conjugated bilirubin then enters into the intestine by the portal circulation, and then in the intestine some bacteria acts on it and convert it into urobilinogen. Then this 90% of urobilinogen converts into stercobilinogen, which gives a brown color to the feces, and then this 10% of the remaining into the circulation, and from circulation enters into the kidneys, and then it appears into the urine, the remaining 10% urobilinogen. Now let's talk about the few differences between indirect bilirubin and direct bilirubin or conjugated bilirubin. Indirect bilirubin, as we have discussed, it is tightly bound with the albumin. So it is non-water soluble, and as it is non-water soluble, so it cannot be excreted out in urine, as urine is negative in case of indirect hyperbilirubinemia. So increased levels are very toxic to the brain and crosses the blood-brain barrier. A condition is called kernicterus and damages the brain tissues. Now come to direct bilirubin or conjugated bilirubin, which is actually binds with the glucouronic acid after passing through the liver. As it is loosely binds with the albumin, that's why it is water soluble and can be excreted out into the urine. So when the direct hyperbilirubinemia, the urine color is dark because this direct bilirubin can be excreted out in urine, and it is non-toxic. As discussed, that unconjugated bilirubin is non-water soluble, so urine is negative in case of indirect or unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia. This unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia may be due to there is excessive production of bilirubin, or it may be due to impaired conjugation in the liver. In the excessive production, the causes are hemolytic jaundice, and the causes of hemolytic jaundice are hereditary spherocytosis, sickle cell anemia, thalassemia major, and autoimmune hemolytic anemia. In short, the hemolytic anemias is the cause of this excessive production, because in the hemolytic anemias, the RBC got break down into the hemoglobin, and then hemoglobin into porphyrin and heme, and as a result there is overproduction of bilirubin. In the lab findings of hemolytic jaundice, or in short unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia because of hemolysis, the conjugated bilirubin levels are below 20%. Suppose if the patient has total bilirubin levels of 10 mg per deciliter and has 0.15 mg per deciliter of conjugated bilirubin. So this conjugated bilirubin is less than 20% of this total bilirubin. So it indicates that the unconjugated bilirubin levels are 8.5 mg per deciliter, as the total bilirubin minus conjugated bilirubin is equal to indirect bilirubin. So 8.5 mg per deciliter of indirect bilirubin. So it indicates that the patient has hemolysis or hemolytic jaundice. In the urine, bilirubin is negative as it is non-water soluble, so urine bilirubin is negative. There is no bilirubin in the urine. In the liver function test, AST levels are very high because the AST is also present in the RBCs. When there is a breakdown of RBC, AST levels are very high. So patient has conjugated bilirubin less than 20%, and in the LFTs, AST levels are very high, and these two parameters indicate that the patient has hemolytic jaundice. And in the CBC report, or in the complete blood count, or in the complete blood picture, reticulocyte count is very high. Reticulocytes are basically immature red blood cells which becomes very high as a compensation in the hemolysis. Now come to the genetic causes, in which there is an impairment in the conjugation of bilirubin, as we have discussed in the pathophysiology. Now the first syndrome is Gilbert syndrome. It is the first genetic defect. In the Gilbert syndrome, the glucouracil transferase, or UDP, UGT1A1 enzyme has decreased activity. So there is no proper conjugation, that the bilirubin cannot be conjugated with the glucouronic acid, and it is common in 7% of population. Patient present with only mild jaundice or usually asymptomatic. It is common in adolescent or adult life. But the triggering factors are alcohol, fasting, and heavy exercise, and some illness. These are in case of Gilbert syndrome. It is the most common cause of isolated hyperbilirubinemia, as the other parameters or LFTs are normal. Only the unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia is in the LFT report. So it is the most common cause after the hemolytic jaundice. There is no specific treatment in case of Gilbert syndrome. Now come to Crigler-Najjar syndrome, which is classified into type 1 and type 2. So Crigler-Najjar type 1, in the UGT1A1 enzyme is totally absent in the liver, so there is severe hyperbilirubinemia at the time of birth, and it causes brain damage. As we have discussed previously, that unconjugated hyperbilirubinemia is very toxic to the brain, so condition is called Kernicterus. The treatment is phototherapy, exchange transfusion, and liver transplant, but usually it is fatal. And now come to the second type, which is Crigler-Najjar type 2, in which there is a decreased activity of UGT1A1 enzyme, which is important for conjugation of bilirubin. So there are decreased levels of this enzyme. It is less severe as compared to type 1, and there is no Kernicterus in this case. Management is oral phenobarbital. In the laboratory, difference between the laboratory findings of impaired conjugation and excessive bilirubin production, that is hemolytic jaundice, and the genetic disorders. In the lab findings of genetic disorders, the conjugated bilirubin is below 20% and urine bilirubin is negative, while the LFTs are normal. Here the AST levels are very high in case of hemolytic jaundice, as we have discussed previously, but here the LFTs are normal. Now come to conjugated hyperbilirubinemia. As we have discussed that the conjugated bilirubin is water soluble, so it can be excreted out in the urine. So urine is positive for bilirubin in conjugated hyperbilirubinemia. Cholestatic or obstructive jaundice is there in case of conjugated hyperbilirubinemia. It is classified according to the causes. It may be due to decreased intrahepatic bile excretion, or there is a pathology, or there is obstruction on the extrahepatic, means that the pathology or obstruction outside the liver in the biliary tract. Now come to the causes of decreased intrahepatic bile excretion. It may be drug induced, or when the patient is taking contraceptives, or primary sclerosing cholangitis, primary biliary cirrhosis, autoimmune hepatitis, and two genetic disorders, Dubin-Johnson syndrome and Trotter syndrome. In these two disorders, there is decreased intrahepatic bile excretion. Now come to extrahepatic obstructive causes, may be due to gallstones or choledocholithiasis, pancreatic head tumor which is pressing the biliary tract, and cholangiocarcinoma or carcinoma of the biliary tract, and biliary atresia or strictures in the biliary pathway, and some parasitic infections. Now come to the laboratory findings. In these cases, that is in the conjugated hyperbilirubinemia or in the cholestatic jaundice, the conjugated bilirubin levels are greater than 50% of the total bilirubin. So suppose if the patient has total bilirubin of 10 mg per deciliter, which is not normal value, and has 6 mg as has 6 mg per deciliter of conjugated bilirubin, then this is more than 50% of the total bilirubin. So it indicates that the patient has conjugated hyperbilirubinemia or has cholestatic jaundice. And the urine bilirubin levels are also high, as we have discussed that it can be excreted out in urine as it is water soluble. In the liver function test, the alkaline phosphatase levels are very important. Alkaline phosphatase levels are very high in case of conjugated hyperbilirubinemia or in the cholestatic jaundice, and gamma GT levels are also high. This gamma GT raised indicates that this alkaline phosphatase is of hepatobiliary origin. As compared to alkaline phosphatase and gamma GT, ALT and AST are mildly raised. Cholestasis. Cholestasis is lack of the biliary or bile flow, which may be due to intrahepatic cause or the extrahepatic obstruction. The clinical features, early clinical features are jaundice, pruritus because of deposition of excessive bile in the skin, and dark urine because the conjugated bilirubin is water soluble, so excreted out in the urine, so urine color is dark. But when there is obstruction in the intrahepatic or outside the liver, so this bile and the bilirubin cannot enter into the intestine, so the stool colors are pale because there is no stercobilinogen. The late features are increased levels of cholesterol, as we know that this bile and the bile salts are responsible for the digestion of fats and cholesterol. When there is a no bilirubin in the intestine, so there is no digestion of cholesterol and other fats, so cholesterol levels become very high in the blood. These increased cholesterol levels causes xanthomas formation in the skin, which are basically the cholesterol depositions in the skin. And the fat soluble vitamin levels are below normal. These are A, D, E, and K vitamin. And also patient has weight loss and steatoria. It means foul smelling fatty stools because there is no fat digestion in case of hyperbilirubinemia, which is conjugated hyperbilirubinemia. Now come to the hepatocellular jaundice, which is called mixed hyperbilirubinemia. It is basically the inability of the liver to transport the bile into the bilirubin because of parenchymal liver damage. In this case, there is a damage in the parenchyma of the liver. It may be due to viral hepatitis or it may be due to alcoholic hepatitis. In the laboratory findings, the both the conjugated as well as unconjugated bilirubin levels are high. Conjugated bilirubin levels are 20 to 50% of the total bilirubin, and urine bilirubin is positive as because of conjugated hyperbilirubinemia in this case as well. In the liver function test, in case of viral hepatitis, ALT levels are markedly raised and are much more higher than the AST, while mildly the alkaline phosphatase and gamma GT levels are high. And in alcoholic hepatitis, the AST levels are very high as compared to ALT and always greater than 2:1, and mild alkaline phosphatase and gamma GT are raised. So this was whole about jaundice and hyperbilirubinemias. Thank you so much for watching this video.